See, as hypnotists, we're usually the ones that go in the room and go, we have the coolest job. So then we hear salsa teacher, we go, oh, awesome.
Massage therapist.
Well, I'll start with myself, then we'll work down. My name is Jason Linett. I'm a board-certified hypnotist. I'm the instructor here. This is my office, Virginia Hypnosis. I get to add the new resume line, which is I'm now the one organizing the Hypnotism Success Series for the NGH. There should have been a member blast either today or tomorrow. Did that come out? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not on the list. Doing damn videos. But my goal this year, again, is all about your success. Events like this weekend. How do we take everybody and just raise them up? So whether it's classes here, workshops we're hosting, just ongoing events throughout the year, just get you sick of this room and get you coming back for more. Welcome everybody. Cheryl.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Elman, and I've been doing this since 2009, 2008, and I enjoy it. I have a background in special education. I'm an artist, and I've had a mobile arts and craft company for many, many years. If you know anybody that would like to buy 2,000 pieces of Plasticraft, I got them ready to go. I want to turn that space into another therapy room. and I just love hypnosis. I love the world of it. And my goal is, I love Dave Elman's methods, and I am married to Dave Elman's son. So I am the marketing force behind the Dave Elman Hypnosis Institute. And so my goal is to keep bringing it around the world. We just finished a 2-month tour in Europe. We were in Hungary, Romania, Poland, Slovenia, England, Netherlands, and Munich. And
Switzerland.
Munich. Oh, sorry, Switzerland, in Zurich. Munich, we didn't make it to this time.
No, Munich we did previous summer.
Okay, and then we're heading in a few weeks to Iceland and Netherlands. So, and we'll be going to Japan later in the year. So, it's just opening the world, and it's like, it's a great way. We're old hippies. We're working our way around the world, one country at a time, and I love it. Love getting to meet hypnotists and professionals and psychologists all over the world, and how differently, and culturally, you know, when you're working in different cultures, it changes, you know, what you would say and do, and you know, there are no, when things are translated, there are no words, some of the words we have, so it's been very, very interesting.
I'm Larry Elman. First thing I'll say is my darling wife is more than just the marketing force behind DHI, Dave Elman Hypnosis Institute. She's also a superb hypnotherapist. I pass the tough cases that way. Beyond that, my father taught me hypnosis when I was 11 years old. Worked in the family business for some years. Then went into both the military and the defense industries, and in those two places being a hypnotist was career damaging. So my interest was kind of, shall we say, semi-hidden. And then after I'd retired from all of those, I got back into this, and as she just said, we've been traveling the world, teaching, lecturing, having fun, and meeting some very wonderful hypnotists.
And for those who don't quite have a familiarity, let me just grab one of these out here. Larry's father, Dave Elman, the way that I tell the story, and correct me here, was a stage hypnotist, then a very closeted stage hypnotist, who was then basically found out he was hosting a radio program called Hobby Lobby. People would come in, present their hobbies, and the story goes there was one time an appearance of a hypnotist trying to demonstrate a stage hypnosis event, and it just wasn't going anywhere. So Larry's father, Dave, then goes, well, I've seen one of these before, let me try. And then basically took over and saved the program that day. You fast forward, and here is the, quote, layperson. Here is the non-medical person in the room. And this book, Hypnotherapy, is a transcription of the classes that Dave Elman would teach doctors. And in terms of an interesting side note in terms of history, we're talking 1950s, 1960s here.
Started teaching it in '49.
Yeah, And even in this book in the 1950s and 60s, from these transcriptions, are you starting to see, well, the doctors have 8 minutes in the room with the patient, make it count. You know, look at our modern society now in terms of going to the doctor's office, how you're rushed in, you're rushed out, there's no real time spent with people. And with an out-of-date model of hypnosis, it was this longer, laborious, progressive muscle relaxation, long, drawn-out processes, dating back to even stories around Mesmer or stories around specifically the German name I'm blanking out on, Five Trips, Bernheim, where they would often do multiple sessions of conditioning, getting the patient ready for the next part of the process, basically conditioning to hypnosis. Enter a name like Dave Elman, who then basically saw that need and began to chunk it down to what's absolutely necessary. So part of tonight, for those of you that aren't familiar, we'll spend some time talking about the actual process of the Dave Elman induction, specifically because that's the difference between this methodology. It's a process, as opposed to read from page 1 to page 4, that ought to do it. I'd share briefly that my introduction to all things hypnosis was I saw a stage hypnotist at my college, and I bought a whole bunch of stuff online because I went, oh, that's cool. And I'm reading this stuff, and one of the things I remember was this 7-page script. And the line was, just say it all, that ought to work. It's a numbers game, you'll keep this percentage of people just by reading these words. And sure enough, folding those techniques into my practice early on, yeah, those numbers were about right. The challenge was I didn't know why they were working. So that's about the time I then began to connect with others and started to learn more. When this style of work introduces a more modular approach to hypnosis, so that rather than just read from page 1 to page 7, well, what if you get to page 7 and they're not there yet? What if you're on page 2 and they're already, quote, exactly where you need them to be, and pages 3 through 7 might actually start to undo what you've just perfectly well built? So how do we begin to actually calibrate to that person in front of us and actually work with that individual as opposed to just repeating everything by rote because those are the words that we were told? It's as if they're magic, just say them. So that's a brief, massively shortened version.
Very encapsulated.
Very encapsulated. But that benefit becomes, and let's put it simply, it's not always a game about time. But Elman would at times refer to it as the 3-minute routine, the 2-minute routine, and eventually the 1-minute routine. How do you get someone deeply into hypnosis in a brief amount of time so you actually know where they are, as opposed to looking at the person in the chair and going, well, they look relaxed, I guess they're there. How do we get that confirmation the entire way through? Basically have a stepping stone process, and we only move forward to the next step when we know where they should be. So it's a whole model of work that we can then begin to spill over to everything else that we do. How to actually be in the moment with the client and watch them and see how they're reacting and change our words to work with that individual, as opposed to, well, here's my favorite script, let me just read it. How do we become more interactive? That's the biggest theme that I've picked up from reading this book over and over nearly every year.
Can I add something to it?
Of course. No.
When Dad first started getting doctors as students, the big selling point was you can now do hypnosis in 3 minutes and under, which means you've got 5 minutes left of your 8 minutes to actually do some medicine, but the medicine will be more effective because of the hypnosis. So the 3-minute thing was the big selling point. So I come back into the business, and it's now decades later, and my students aren't doctors. They're hypnotherapists like you guys. You bill by the hour, you make your appointments by the hour. What the heck do I care about 3 minutes? I began thinking, what is the payoff in the modern sense? The answer is very simple. If you do an induction that in 3 minutes gets them deep and has tests in it so they know they're deep, what you've done is you've raised their belief in what they're doing. And the result is all of your post-hypnotics are improved because of the belief. So really, the reason for going for a rapid induction is quality control. You want the people believing they were in hypnosis. How many of you have had a client say after they are emerged, well, I really don't know if I was hypnotized. When you hear that from a client, you can figure that roughly 1/3 to 1/2 of the power of your change suggestions just went out the window. But if you can give them enough tests and be rapid enough about it, so they come out saying, wow, I was hypnotized, they'll take those suggestions better. So rapidity is quality control.
Excellent. So many people here are already familiar with the process in terms of working one-on-one with somebody. The focus tonight is all about how to actually take this process and begin to fold it into a group. To give you kind of a rough outline of what we're going to do tonight, I'd love to start with a demo. And then from there we'll break it apart, talk about what the process really was, and then the next step from there, and I'll let Cheryl tell the anecdote before we do it, about the encore. But from my side of experiences, again, I got into all this doing stage hypnosis, where I'd be on stage with 20, 30 volunteers. And what I'd share from that experience, how do we take these principles and fold it into that environment, where typically the stage hypnosis environment may actually, for some, be, again, that numbers game. Just use it, and those that are responsive, you keep those, you send everybody back to the audience. You'll notice that as we start to take apart this process that we're about to share, it's just basically 6 deepening techniques in a specific order, because that's just the order they work best. But how do we then take these deepening techniques and start to individualize for those 20 people up there? So if I'm working with everybody and Nelson needs a little bit more, I can give you a little bit more attention and we're going to be fine. If I'm working and I see that I'm kind of losing Sterling, I'm going to begin to give him a little bit of focus, continue working with everyone else, but be giving him individualized attention as well. So basically, how do we work with 20 people as a group, yet also as their 20 individuals at the same time? So we're getting into some of that detail as well.
Yes!
But you have to leave for that, Michelle. Excellent. Do you want to tell the encore story?
I forget which country we were in.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was
Poland.
we were in Poland. That was
Yes.
Now, the other thing about working in other countries is we use a translation booth in some of the countries. So it took us a while to realize that, you know, the induction is done, and then the person's not doing anything, and you go, oh, it didn't work. And all of a sudden, a few seconds later, because it took a while for the translation to come through their earphones to them. And so, and it's
longest 3 seconds in your life.
and it's also very interesting because, you know, you're dependent on what the translators are saying. And also getting some good translators that also use their voice as an instrument and sort of not just say the words, but understand. They all study. We send them stuff to begin with, so they have an understanding of Elman, understanding of hypnosis, understanding. Because we actually were in Shepperton once, doing Shepperton Film Studios at a conference there. And this guy from Russia was there, and he was very metaphysical, you know, which also has a language. So does the hypnosis, and then the metaphysical world has its languages. And so they just picked up this translator, this interpreter, at the airport. They had no relationship. She didn't know his stuff. She didn't know hypnosis, had no background whatsoever. And the first day, as he's speaking up on the stage, and he's saying something, she repeats it, and then says, "Can you believe what this guy is saying?" You know, so it was. I mean, it was just so out there for her. I mean, as a hypnotist, it was a little out there for me, and you know, but it was definitely. Again, I was going on her translation all weekend, so I don't know. I had to ask somebody else that spoke Russian and said, "Is she saying what he is?" Because I'm not quite getting. She goes, "No, it's really bad." So getting the right translation, getting that booth going. So now you have a few people in the room, maybe a third. I think we had 40 some odd people in the room, and a third of the people, you know, spoke English, and the rest are dependent on the earphones. And so I went ahead and I spoke with the translators there, and they did do the whole thing with the voice and mimic my voice too. And so I did the group Elman hypnosis after lunch, an induction, and when we were done, they asked for an encore immediately. and then the next day they wanted another one. So they really enjoyed it. A lot of people do what they'll call a group Elman, but it might only have 2 or 3 of the steps of the Elman. And it's taken a while. I think it was in here when I did it last year, or during the summer. I keep developing how else can we bring in the truest of the Elman and still have it work in a group. So I keep developing that as we go. So This is a newer version.
Awesome. You want to start us off?
Okay.
All right.
Y'all want to get comfortable in your seats?
I very much want to get comfortable in this seat.
Okay, just
I
think
don't
of
think
that.
there's much chance of that.
Think of that nice plush chair under you.
Translators from South Africa.
Okay, so everybody go ahead and take a deep breath in. Hold it a minute and let it out. Just totally relaxed. Feeling wonderful. And go ahead and take another deep breath in. And close your eyes down and breathe out and just totally relax. Just let that feeling of relaxation go all the way around into the muscles around your eyes. Just feeling totally relaxed, wonderfully relaxed. And just let them relax to the point that they just don't want to work. And when you're sure that your eyes just don't want to work because your muscles are so relaxed, go ahead and give them a little tug and prove to yourself that they just don't want to work. They're like glued tight shut. That's right. Now you can go ahead and stop testing and just relax yourself. And take that feeling of relaxation from the top of your head and just let it go down all the way down your body and right down to the tip of your toes. Just feeling wonderfully relaxed. In a moment, I'm going to have you open your eyes and close your eyes. And when you do, you're going to go 10 times deeper into relaxation. Go ahead and open your eyes and close your eyes. 10 times deeper, wonderfully relaxed. In a moment, you're going to open your eyes and close your eyes, and when you do, you'll go double that sense of relaxation. Go ahead and open your eyes and close your eyes. Just double that sense of relaxation. Feeling so wonderful. In a moment, I'm going to have you open your eyes and close your eyes, and when you do, you can go as deep as you'd like. Just let it go as deep as you'd like. Go ahead and open your eyes and close your eyes. Wonderfully deep as you'd like. That's great. You're doing fine. In a moment, I'm going to have you pick up your arm straight out from your shoulder and just let it get totally rigid. Go ahead and lift up your arm, whichever one you'd like, and go ahead and let it go straight out in front of you and just rigid. Rigid like a bar of steel. Rigid as if there were a bar of steel there, and the harder you try to bend it, the more you can't. The more you can't, and it's just so rigid. Rigid, rigid, no matter how hard you try to bend it, you just keep going deeper and deeper, and it just gets stiffer and stiffer, and slowly, slowly lower it, and you'll notice as it comes down slowly, you go even deeper, and just let it come down very relaxed, slowly deepening it, even deeper. That's right. You're doing fine. Now that you have this sense of physical relaxation, we're going to go for mental relaxation. In your mind's eye, I want you to just think. Think about counting backwards from 100, but you're going to do it in your mind's eye. And your mind is going to get so totally relaxed, so wonderfully relaxed, you'll find the numbers just relax right out of your mind. Just let it happen, and it will happen. And when you do, when you find that the numbers are just gone, they just disappear. Some people it's maybe 97, 96, 98. Just let it totally relax, mind relaxed, and just let your mind push them right out. And when they do, just go ahead and lift up your hand and hold it there for a moment just so we know how relaxed you are. So in your mind's eye now, start counting backwards from 100 and just let them go. That's right. That's right. Wonderfully relaxed. You're doing great. And you can push them out even harder. That's right. Just let them go. Let them go and just find yourself so mentally relaxed. That's right. You're doing great. And as I count from 5 down to 1, you'll let yourself go even deeper. Even deeper. 5, 4, 3. Just feel yourself going so deeply relaxed, so comfortable that even your chair under you just gets more and more comfortable as you sit there. Your body is so comfortable. 3, 2, and 1. That's great. You're doing fine. Now, in a moment I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and as I do, or 1 to 5, and as I do, you're going to find yourself becoming more aware of your surroundings, and as you do, you're going to find that you're just going to be so intrigued with everything happening today. So intrigued that it's just going to be able to just be remembered so easily when you go to use the different techniques you're going to learn tonight from all of us. 1, feel the energy coming up from the floor. 2, traveling right up your legs and becoming more and more aware of the surroundings around you. 3, finding the circulation in your fingers and toes coming back. 4, like a cool mountain stream just crossing over your eyes, making them feel cool and comfortable. And 5, whenever you're ready, open your eyes and you feel better than you have all day. You feel good, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody want to share their experience? How did you enjoy that? Cheryl.
I almost got mad when you asked me to raise my hand, and so I was like, I'm too relaxed.
I know. The only reason I do that is so I can see where you're at.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
But
because I'm working in a group, I would not normally do that.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and when you're working in a group and somebody like me doesn't raise their hand, you can.
I don't always assume they haven't lost them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because some people think they raised their hand. But,
oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
because they think that they raised it. Or some people raise them, and he was such a, I said just keep him there, and so I finally had to just have him put his down, because he's just, I know the answer, I know it.
And the other question that I had is somebody said if you're asked to raise your arm up, if you're really, really deep, it's going to come up really slow, really slow. And
If you use it in that technique.
So when you said raise your hand, were you expecting for people's hands to come up really slow because they're deep, or just?
I had no expectation on the rate. You mean when we were doing the rigid arm?
No, when you
for
asked us
hand?
to raise our hand.
It was interpreted anyway. Some people were like this, some people were like this, some people just move their hand here. I just have them raise it. I used to say just go ahead and lift your hand slow, but I can't see because there's 3 rows. So that's why.
In this context, there's no correlation between how slow somebody lifts their
It was
hand.
just a signal for me. It was not even part of the process. It just signaled me, the operator, that, and once I saw at least half the people in the room had lost the numbers, then I just emerge you so we can get on to the next thing. How many people here lost the numbers? Raise your hand. Raise it high so we could actually see. Okay? So that was, but I didn't see everybody's hands.
I believe, from what I've seen, I've used it too, but she's, on group, she's the really good one. The experience is when you're working in a group, if about 50% of them have raised their hands, somewhere between 80 and 100% of them have lost the numbers. The others may have, as she said, just moved a finger or thought they raised their hand but you didn't see it or whatever. Once you see something on the order of half the group, you can figure you got significantly more than that.
Yes.
What do you mean exactly they lost the numbers?
You relax them right out of your mind. Remember, I had said, go ahead and start counting backwards, and see, some people forget to say that that's the purpose of what you're doing.
Why don't we actually take
go
a step?
through the-
Yeah, go through the entire process, then we can break it down, because we have some people that, this whole thing is brand new too.
Okay, is
Yeah.
there, how many people here had never heard or done the Dave Elman induction? Raise your hand. Okay, so this would be, and there are people that they say losing the numbers, and that's not really what it's about. So,
Okay, I just
Do you wanna-
wanted to just mention, just some tangential what Michelle had said. I would count myself as one of those people who wasn't sure whether their hand raised or not. I did not consciously raise my hand. at all. But I think I felt it go like
It did.
that.
Same here.
But I
It
don't,
did.
I couldn't say whether I did or not, so I didn't know if I raised, but I felt some sensation, so it's not always,
Right.
you know, a conscious raising of the hand.
Right.
And I just want to ask a question here. Like in my case, when you said 5, when I came out, I was like dizzy. I didn't, I was trying to catch. I was trying to look at these, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah,
Can I take that one?
go for it.
In general, whether it's a group induction or clients or whatever, if somebody comes out feeling dizzy or whatever, first of all, they've given themselves that suggestion, possibly subconsciously, but they've done it. Second of all, it's more likely to occur if it's been what for that person is a rapid emergence. Some people can be emergent as simple as a snap of the fingers, some take a bit longer. If it's really unpleasant for the person and you're working with an individual client, induce them, bring them back out more slowly, and you're fine. But the big preventative of this problem is that during an emergence, and you could see it in the way she gave hers, you always include a health suggestion. And when you emerge, you're going to feel better than you felt all day, because that counters most people's self-suggestion that you don't want them to have. Now, when you give a health suggestion like that, don't do something that's going to be overkill. Like I saw one hypnotist say, better than you felt all your life. And the person came out looking at him like, you know, you don't want to do that. Better than you felt all day is about as far as I take it. Or just feeling wonderful, or something believable. Don't pick something irrational. Take something believable, but make it a health suggestion. That usually handles it.
Another, oh, go ahead.
One thing, in doing group inductions in the evening, I haven't done it because I know that we're still going to be doing more before the evening's over. But we will, one of us, at some point. I have found that when you're doing group inductions in the evening, or even working with an individual, just telling them they're going to feel great and energized, you want to make sure that when they lay their head down that night, they go back very relaxed and they can go to sleep real well, because sometimes they're so energized that they may not necessarily want to go to sleep at night. So that's just something that I've discovered.
Yeah.
People have gotten so energized that that is good to throw that in, especially if people are getting hypnotized several times during classes and group things.
And another thing to keep in mind too, specifically towards that, is the entire experience is suggestion. The entire experience is hypnosis. So the suggestion to emerge from hypnosis is a suggestion just like anything else in the process. You'll hear different numbers in the community about how many seconds are they still suggestible once the eyes open, to which the way that I talk about is the entire experience is hypnosis, so just be giving suggestions the entire time. So notice that the phrasing was, and notice you feel better than you felt all day. She wasn't asking you a question there. She was making a statement. The same way that we're going to be making statements and suggestions the entire way through. Count of 5, eyes open, just notice how good you feel. And you do feel good, don't you? It may sound a bit like a question, but there's some tonality there. And you do feel good, don't you? And I'm nodding at you as I'm saying that. You're nodding at me back right now. That because the entire experience is suggestion, let's be giving them the entire way around it. Again, the main theme of that is just because their eyes are open now does not mean they're now out of hypnosis. It's that bypassing of the critical factors of the mind and the acceptance of selectable thinking. Here's the person so deeply interested in their run on the beach that they completely find themselves a few miles later. Full energy, running full force ahead. Now, the question would be, how suggestible are they there? You can't run behind them and say, "You're now a non-smoker," and expect to change. But they're creating a hypnotic state of mind within themselves, as opposed to what we'd expect of they're just completely slumped over in the chair and non-responsive. So because it's all a suggestion, we want to be there to catch that person. That if I noted that with you, the same thing that Cheryl and Larry just said, I would perhaps bring it back into the process, repeat it again with even more health-giving suggestions, and just kind of take note. I'm looking around. You were there for the class with Sonia, where we had one person in the group in a previous class that we just all learned, okay, now everybody, when you work with Sonia, do a 10 count to bring her out. 5's not enough for Sonia. And just found she had that, what we call a hypnotic hangover on a 5 count.
And
You've
goes,
seen that happen
goes
with
down,
me.
Yeah,
and goes down so deep.
it goes down so deep that...
Did you feel you were very deep?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually when I was taking the training, actually, I used to, when they pulled me out, I'd get really bad headaches.
Yeah.
Really bad headaches.
So that's, you can even almost suggest that to yourself, knowing no matter who's hypnotizing
Now,
you.
having
Right.
had that experience, part of your mind is saying, will I have that experience again? So in your case, first of all, be aware that it was probably self-induced. But second of all, a good hypnotist working with you would make sure to give very solid health suggestions. And given like Jason just demonstrated, you probably will not have that happen.
Right.
In fact, now that you know what I've just said, it's a fair bet that in the future that's not going to happen to you. Because you know the way around it, you don't need the problem, therefore the problem is going to go away.
Okay.
And very quickly on that note, remember when you were here with Inez and somebody dropped me and I came out with a hypnotic hangover and you took me in there and you deepened me.
Right.
You gave me the suggestion that from now on I would come out and I would emerge slowly and pain free and headache free and all that stuff. I don't know
And
if
has
you did
that
it on
worked for
purpose,
you?
but you did that with me and it worked. It's
I
just a
didn't remember
suggestion.
doing it. I didn't remember
That's what
doing
you're
it.
supposed to do, so.
Yeah.
So
So let's
Great.
do this. Let's take a few moments and kind of break down that process step by step to refresh that for those who are familiar with it, because there's some little nuances as well that we often get stuck with. Here's the one way to do that process, when really each one of these techniques along the way could be done in more than one way.
And that's
So,
what
yeah.
these little cards you got.
It's a cheat sheet.
First of all, there's 2 pictures of Dave Elman on here. One is, we didn't mention, but in between, when he was a teenager, he was in vaudeville. And he played saxophone, violin.
He was good on the violin.
Right,
vaudeville,
saxophone,
primarily played
he was a
sax.
comic, he did, and you see him lecturing a monkey here in vaudeville. And he also did hypnosis in vaudeville. And then you see him in 51, lecturing in front of doctors. So we just enjoyed that. And on the back, keep it short.
I intend. I've got a wife.
I have to tell you, wait, I have to share this
Do
with
I
you.
have to sit in the middle?
Yeah. I want to share this quickly. We were doing a Dave Elman panel during the summer at, just a couple of months ago in Zurich. And it was actually James Ramey asked if he could tell a story, and we had made it specific that people were going to ask questions of us, but we're not going to get up and do soliloquies, and he wanted to tell a story. He says, now, could I tell a short story? I said, no. He just looked at me. And I had to go up to him after, and I said, James, I just want you to understand, when you ask that question, I'm married to Larry.
No, wait a minute. I'll correct that. She actually made that remark from the podium right there.
And people understood, so go ahead, honey, tell your story.
Jason, it might be time.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, jeez. You drove it right out of my mind.
Oh, shucks. Okay.
Phase 6 later.
Oh, I was telling you.
Oh,
So on
yeah,
the
you
back,
were. You're
on the back of the card are these steps, and they're. We'll tell you what they're also called, which most people know the names of them by, but we use more the process since we're showing it more as a process.
Right.
Okay.
Great.
So you.
Yeah, so I'll start us off. First phase, actually you start us off because you had some little bit of extra work at the beginning.
I just had you closing your, first of all, I usually will have them take a deep breath and hold it for a minute and then let the breath out. And I do it with maybe a client once, but with the group, just to see if everybody's sort of starting with me, I'll do it a couple extra times. And then I have you close your eyes and then relax the muscles around your eyes to the point they just didn't work. And when you're sure they just weren't working, go ahead and give them a tug. Now, the original words of Dave Elman use the word test. I'm a special ed teacher, and I know about test anxiety. And I'm also somebody, like, you're gonna give me a challenge, so I actually had changed the word a little, prove to yourself, which took a little bit of the challenge away, and also took a little, if it's a test, I could fail it away. So just proving to yourself. So I started using those words. I don't remember where I heard them, but I just adopted them or came up with them, I don't remember.
And she's totally correct.
Okay, and so we call that
Small muscle. Yeah, catalepsy, either complete tightening or complete relaxation of a group of muscles.
Now, if you have somebody,
But, yeah, I know where you're going.
There's a but here, and that is, why do we say catalepsy of a group of small muscles rather than eye closure, eye lock? And what I always say when I'm teaching a certification class is, if you had a blind client, would eye closure, eye lock mean anything to them psychologically? And they'll go, duh, hadn't thought of that. So we're emphasizing what the step does rather than how you do it. For a group induction, or for 90-some-odd% of your clients, yeah, you're going to use eye closure, eye lock. But don't call it that. Don't put that in your head. Put in your head that what you're doing is catalepsy of a group of small muscles in order to bypass the critical faculty, in order to start the hypnosis process.
So simply put, it's a small suggestion, and Elman would refer to this as the wedge. And my paraphrase, it's the foot in the door. Once we get that first suggestion accepted, then we can roll on to the next phase.
Exactly.
What I want to roll back, though, and point out, though, is something that was beautiful with that group process of giving the deep breaths at the beginning. I've mostly done stage hypnosis programs for high schools. Take a moment now and imagine the challenges of working with a group of 15 to 18-year-olds.
do it with
So what, the hypnosis, so what,
or it's not easier.
yeah. So let's put it this way. What do you think my first tool is before I ever go for anything of a hypnotic nature? Compliance. I want to see they're following my instructions in that opening phase. So similar to that, just like what Cheryl demonstrated, to take that moment. Great, everybody look up here, eyes focusing up here. With me, take a nice deep breath in. With me, take a nice deep breath in. Good. And as you exhale, just relax. Good. Even deeper next time. Take a nice deep breath in. That's right, everybody, hold it. Good. Exhale, breathe it on out. Good. And now the deepest breath of all. Take a nice deep breath in, and now we're into the process. But I'm using that as a moment to build compliance, to build that, simply put, the first few phases are a little bit of follow the leader. But by the time I've built several wedges in the door, foots in the door, as soon as they've jumped through several hoops at that point in time, as soon as I fire away the first, quote, hypnotic suggestion, they've already accepted several suggestions before we got to that point in time. So now I can use a little bit more stronger language at times, because then they're ready for the next bit of instruction. It's a simple process. All it is a matter of following some easy instructions. Follow with me now. Take a nice deep breath in, and I'm modeling, I'm building it up so they see me doing it as I'm facing that group. So compliance first, followed by suggestibility. Not so much I'd find in my private sessions one-on-one with someone in the back room, but in a group environment, I have to have control of those people out there. We simply put my magical phrase in a stage hypnosis show at a high school. Great, from this point forward, one simple rule. If you talk to somebody else up here, it's an instant invitation back to the audience. If you talk to someone else up here, it means you're distracting someone who else wants to be up here. Nod your head if you understand. And James has seen my show before. I can be very polite but very brutal with that. Hey, thank you so much. I'm going to enjoy the program out there. Which I simply note for those that are interested in the stage hypnosis side of things, would you believe after I've done that I have the most 19 well-behaved people up there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which again, it's just that, simply put, this is my show, and if you're going to be up here, you're going to follow my instructions. And we don't have to get that.
I think that comes from Art of War, doesn't it?
But again, it's just that it's that same tone though of in the office back there. We're the expert in the room. We're directing the process. You're here today because I know how to help you guide yourself using these tools to create these changes. So just to take control of the process. So that breathing, it can be done in a very permissive, maternal way. Yet again, for some of the markets that I used to do a lot of shows, that was just absolutely necessary. And once I had that, then the rest of it became really simple.
Also, if you have a one-to-one client
Oh, yeah.
and they,
You're sitting right here with
you
them.
know, they sit, you just discussed and they're gonna follow your directions and you say, okay, go ahead and sit back in your chair, and they're like this. I will have them open their eyes. I say, go ahead and open your eyes and now take a deep breath. And I'll do the same thing so they get used to following my directions instead of leading where they're going.
For those
we
of
talked,
you, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Oh,
What were you
for
gonna
those
say?
of you who see clients, you have the person who walks in, they sit down in the chair, the feet go up, the hands go up, and you go, okay, we're not doing that today.
So now, we talked about, or Larry started on if you had somebody that was blind, that might not have the sensation or the feelings or the same sensations that we would get in the eyes. So you could use its small muscle, fine motor coordination. You could use your finger. You know, you're studying with Sean Michael Andrews. The reason I ended up in this is he came to interview Larry, and he, I don't remember if he stuck or maybe he did both. He stuck my hand to my head or my hand to the table.
Like,
one
put it on
of
the
Sean's
table and
things.
moved it to your head afterwards.
Okay, so either way, he stuck it, and I couldn't move it. I went, all right, I want to do this, but I knew it worked because I had stopped smoking 2.5 to 3.5 packs a day 16 years earlier from hypnosis. So I knew it worked. I knew what it could do, and so I was pretty excited about it. And so I studied.
Just the other thing I was thinking with the, also in addition to small muscle catalepsy and the breathing thing that Jason was talking about, is that it's also a convincer for the audience when they can't do that they are actually being inducted into hypnosis, because in their own mind they've already go, oh, I can't. They must know what they're doing.
Right.
And the other thing I was thinking of too, as Jason was saying with the whole breathing, that building the compliance, is that it's also, I think, taking advantage of the fact that I mean, you've got them to do 3 things, and our brains, if we go in a certain direction, will tend to continue to go in that direction unless something radically changes it. And by having them do those 3 breaths, they've already convinced themselves, I'm going to follow what he's saying.
Right.
So I will only continue to do so unless something radically changes it.
I think I learned from either James or Jason, and I tell my patients, I work in a mental health clinic, and I tell them, please move to the front 2 inches, move to the back to see if they are in compliance, and I make sure that they are following instructions.
Great.
I'll share one little side note. We very politely disagree on one simple concept.
Okay.
But I disagree with a certain asterisk attached to it. The word test.
Right.
I'm only going to use that when they've passed it. So give them a try. Try harder. The more you try, the more impossible it becomes. Try. Good. Quit testing. Relax and go deeper. Because at that point in time, they've already passed it. I'm doing great. So use it at the specific time.
That's good.
So it is an interesting word to make use of, because they don't know it's a test until after they've passed it in that manner.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Which
I like that.
could be fun. Or if I've got the person simply put, let's say you'll see a nice range of motion on this. Some people will just kind of be there doing this, and some people might really just be going for it. If they're really going for it, dude, I'm breaking out the word test, because they're already doing it. Test them. Try harder. They just won't work. That phrasing. So that's the little segment on small muscle catalepsy. Again, he called that the wedge. It's the foot in the door. It's the first hoop they're going to jump through. The second phase, yes?
What do you do? Play devil's advocate.
Yeah, we
Oh,
weren't
yeah.
going to troubleshoot it tonight.
Oh, not trouble.
Yeah.
Because that in itself could be a long thing.
Right.
So we are
Understood.
troubleshooting it during the weekend.
Understood.
So since we're doing the Elman and the adaptation to the group and other group things, we will be troubleshooting every step of the way over the weekend.
Yeah.
How to counter it when they don't work.
Understood. Thank you.
But simply
Welcome.
put, just to address the
I
question.
knew that was coming though.
Just to address the question, the shortest answer possible. That's right, you're doing great. Back up, rephrase the suggestion, fire it again. You're likely going to get it the second time. We'll just give the short version now.
Yeah.
The next phase, simple deepener. And I love the phrasing of just it being that. How's it written on the card?
Relaxation suggestion.
It's alright, I don't have my glasses on.
Relaxation suggestions. So they've just, quote, tested the eyes to see they're so relaxed they just won't work. And there's an interesting note, which you're the first one I heard to speak about this, about letting that become a time distortion. Take that feeling of relaxation, send that all the way down across your body. And you've just now done the fastest progressive muscle relaxation you'll ever see.
And here's one other thing. You just told them their eyes were stuck shut. And for some people, actually people have said, how can the next thing you're going to tell them is, okay, you're going to open your eyes. So it was a nice little segue between them too, to just throw in that extra to get them off the eyes and into the next, but it is like a progressive.
Yeah, so it's just basically on one small element, time distortion, just to distract away from the process of the eyes, because the next phase is our fractionation. It's a rising and falling of energy. So the classic format, as you saw here, is open the eyes, let them close. In a one-on-one environment, it's great to be right here with the person, otherwise they're connecting. What is that colorful thing over there? They're connecting with the environment, as opposed to if we're just a nice some safe distance away, we can be doing that fractionation, blocking the eyes to not engage with the distractions around. But even in the group environment, it's still very practical.
If they're facing each other like in a circle, I'll usually start by having them look up at a spot by the ceiling. And that way, even though some of them they're going to bring, as they get more relaxed, they're going to come down, but when they open their eyes, instead of looking at the person across from them, then sometimes they're either drooped down here or looking up at the ceiling still. So I found that easier than here you're looking at the back of their head, so it's not as distracting.
Just a question. When I was going through that process of the opening, because I was even curious in my mind, like, oh, I'm opening my eyes again. But the first one was okay, and then gradually as you did it, my focus started to be a little out. Is everyone's experience on that, individualized, or is that kind of that as you start to get more relaxed, you start to lose the focus if you come in and out?
You mean focusing on what I say?
Well, no, it was actually the eyes themselves. I was, because when I open my eyes like that, everything's in focus.
I
opened
focus,
up and the actual eyes were
Yes.
a little bit out of focus, and every time it was a little bit more. So.
Can I take a bit of that? You're talking about during the fractionation.
Yes.
Yeah, during the
One of the
open and
reasons
close.
why you put the hand there is because if the hand comes in close, it's going to blur. They're going to go cross-eyed and try to focus, and that in itself enhances the suggestion.
Because that's what I was having, was cross.
Yeah.
It was crossed. It wasn't blurred, it was like a cross
Yeah.
more than anything else.
That would be true. Now, in the group one, where you don't have the ability or advantage of putting your hand there, you hope that their own brain is going to do that to them, but you don't have the aid of the fact that the hand there in an individual one does that for you. But many people would experience that, and that is a help towards getting the suggestions to be taken.
And isn't that also somewhat of a characteristic of the actual fractionation itself?
Yes, it is.
Okay. It's just, I've never been hypnotized. So this is kind of, just to get a different state in your physiology and stuff. And for
So
me,
what'd you think of it?
I thought it was good. For me, it's tricky because I'm like, wasn't I not? You just kind of still kind
We'll
of
have to
lost,
answer that for you before the night's over.
There you go. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I actually have a question about when you were doing the eyes and did the eye lock test. Actually, I found myself, and I know it's irrational, but it was created fear.
Yeah.
And the fear I didn't want to go down. I was okay until then. And as soon as you said, okay, you can't open your eyes, that created fear, which totally, the rest of it, actually, I could relax, but I wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
I was very aware of that. But that created a true fear that I could not open my eyes until they, okay, so I'm afraid of this whole process.
Yeah.
Even though rationally in my head, I am not.
Right. And I'd share, in this environment, we often start with the perception that most of the people in this room have either had some experience with hypnosis, so we forego one of the most important processes, which is our pre-talk. To demonstrate exactly what's going to be happening today, talk about on some elements what's not going to happen, talk about what is going to happen. And the way that I tend to phrase it is, we talk about the kinesthetic experience. Some people will feel this wonderful, profound relaxation as if you're sinking into the chair. Some people feel this light floating feeling like you're in water. Or today, Anita, you might experience the miraculous sensation, you're just sitting in a chair. Whatever you feel is what you're going to feel. So for that reason, we're going to layer some things into the process today that help us both to confirm where you are. for lack of a better term, they're hypnotic for you. They're kind of fun. But they're also for me to help calibrate and choose the right techniques to work with you. So simply put, when you're here, I can do these things. And when you're here, oh man, I can do these things. And that just helps you to work with you fun as well. So again, the phrase was, there's some things that are going to happen that are going to be hypnotic in nature, and you're going to have fun with those.
And the funny part is, I know those things because
Yeah.
I do the pre-talk.
Right.
But it's totally different being on the opposite end, and
Yeah.
then, you know, it's like you've drowned before. You know what I'm saying? It's so yeah. That I have to be more aware of it.
Another thought too is perhaps in the challenge, testing, convincing format of in a moment I'm going to count forward, the eyes now begin to lock down tighter and tighter. To use more of a phrasing of, you're the one letting this happen. Which is always something to be mindful. You may hear the occasional hypnotist say, oh, I never do those types of techniques because it's, you know, I'm going to a stranger's office and they're going to lock my eyes shut. Well, yeah, if you use that context, it's going to be that way. Or this is interesting. In a moment, I'm going to count forward. Notice what begins to happen. 1, as if you can notice those eyes being squeezed down just a little bit more tightly shut. 2, just a bit more. That's right, good. 3, simply because you want it to happen, now squeezing further. I'm putting all the emphasis on you. You're the one making this happen.
Now, if you were to do this again, knowing the process, do you think you'd be able to relax and let it go more?
Oh yeah, but I'm saying it's just.
It was
funny
so
because
new to you.
actually, you know better.
Right.
So yeah.
What her question does is it brings up a point that always bothers me in a hypnosis convention. Ask how many people in the room have not been hypnotized, and you'll get anywhere from 10% to 30% of the hypnotherapists in the room saying, I've never been hypnotized.
Wow.
This bothers me because if they haven't been there, how can they observe the client's reactions and have a good idea of how to phrase their next suggestion based upon having been there, and therefore you see something on the client's face or whatever, you have a good idea of what they're thinking. If you haven't been there, you're at a disadvantage. So any of you who haven't been there, please go there.
Similar to in psychology, you know, I used to be in some group therapy, and when I would be with psychologists, and they were running a group therapy session, but had never been a member of one to know what that felt like, and it's like, you know, it was that same thing. No, you gotta know what it's like on the other end too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes sense. How are you going to teach dancing if I don't know how to dance?
Thank you.
You read a book.
Thank you very much.
Which a quick side note, if you're ever working with someone and you can start to kind of mind read that they're not going to a place they're comfortable with, you know, you're doing eye lock, you're doing arm lock, you're doing something, and you see they're starting to have some sort of reaction. Perhaps for those of you who know the vernacular of it, it's not quite an ab reaction, but they're just going, oh, this is weird, this is different. Again, the entire process is suggestion. Some people laugh at that. It's kind of a funny sensation. And you'll see the person just from that simple nudge, that simple phrasing of it, you'll just diminish every bit of that negativity of that moment. So to even have them laughing at that reaction, I know it's funny. You could open them this morning, but what do you feel now? What does that feel like? And even engage that interaction in that moment. It's how we take something that, again, could have had a negative connotation of going to a stranger's office, he's going to lock my eyes shut. People laugh at that. It's funny.
Right.
Stolen from, for those of you who've ever read Integrative Hypnosis, Melissa Tiers, she has a great technique in there where there was argument in the class apparently about, well, how do you make them laugh at that point? She just goes and just kind of push them on the shoulder and tell them to laugh. It always works. And it always works for me too. Just so people laugh at that. It's kind of a funny sensation. Yeah, I know, they can't open.
It's also, for me, when I make a suggestion about, it might be very funny, it gives me an idea again. Are they so deep that they're disconnected, or are they with me?
Yeah.
You know, so similar.
Great. So far we're to the small muscle catalepsy. We've done the simple deepening process, send that all across your body. And fractionation. A brief excerpt there, not to spend too much time on this part, but why 3 times? And I love Larry's insight of 4 is too many and 2 is not enough.
What we found out experimenting was, in most cases, 2 wasn't enough, and a certain percentage of people got bored at 4. So we compromised at 3. Why is it that? I don't know, but it works.
Scientific testing.
Yeah.
No, we've tested it both ways, but
Yeah,
it turns
awesome.
out for most clients that's the best.
And keeping it something that's realistic. So saying that you're going to go 1,000 times deeper. Can the person actually fathom what that? And I've heard that in stage shows by some top people. And it's like, can the person really fathom what that would feel like?
And you had a great one, which was the first was 10 times deeper, which perhaps the person is a little bit more mindful with numbers, could begin to measure that. Double that relaxation, was that the second one?
Yep.
And the last one, I hadn't heard you do that one, of as deep as you
like. Somebody, I don't remember who pointed it out, but it's like, why limit them?
Right.
The reason for that bunch is you don't know how deep they think they are. It isn't what you're observing or what you think their depth is, it's what they think their depth is. Now, depth in hypnosis is suggestibility, but let's make a comparison with a swimming pool. If they think they're down here, and you tell them to go 10 times deeper, in the back of their mind is, what do you want me to do, bounce off the bottom? No. The first shot, you can use a large number, they'll accept it. The second shot, you use a smaller number, because you don't know where they think they are. And the third one, you make free form. So that's why we pick 10, 2, and more. Could you pick 5, 2, and more, or 12, 6, and more? You probably could. 10, 2, and more works.
And what was the phrase that you said at the end, the third time?
As deep as you'd like.
As deep as you'd like?
As deep as you'd like.
Yeah.
And because, you know what, I have friends that are like class 5 virtuosos, and you know, you look at them, and if you tell them to go 10, 10, 10, they are deep in Esdale. And I mean, and they don't necessarily want to come out. So as deep as you'd like to go, not as much as it, because they'll go 10 times deeper if you tell them. And they'll go 10 times again. So if you just limit it, and then as deep as you'd like, you know, or as, you know, not even as you can, because that, again, they can go very deep. So do you want workable hypnotic state? You know, so especially in a group situation, I don't think you want necessarily 5 people in Esdale shooting into Esdale immediately.
Well, that's what you're going for.
Right, but if you're doing like a group demo kind of thing.
Which again, the edit for the group is, it's helpful again to have them direct their eyes to a specific place before the process begins. So for example, if we were sitting a semicircle in this room, we could be looking up at the fire smoke detector up there. In a moment, you let your eyes open and focus up there. In a stage environment, I learned originally to put something in the middle of the stage, and I'll give the brief background, and I'll make it really short. For a couple of years, I worked in professional theater, and there was an amazing experience. I was a manager, I was working in technical side of things. I was the least creative part of the entire process. My job to make all the creative people get along. You're with me on that. And there was an amazing moment where here's the young actor right out of grad school arguing with the director, "You're going to make me turn my back on the audience?" And the director very quietly stands up, walks over and goes, "If I make you turn your back, I'm giving you another entrance. The moment you turn back around, everyone's going to look at you." And here the next couple of days, this actress was actually asking for more opportunities to turn her back on the audience and face forward. So, you know, you'll hear the old line about always face the audience, but for a stage hypnosis environment, I've found strength of, in a moment, you're going to open your eyes and look towards me. I'll be standing in the center area of the stage. You'll look directly at my left hand. I'll then say 2 words, let the hands just, let the eyes follow down. So I'm getting that compliance again step of the eyes open, they're looking directly where I am. And I'm kind of standing right in the middle so I can see my group of people and they're all connected. So this one who the eyes are kind of darting around looking somewhere else, I've got to be a little concerned about that one for the next few steps and start to customize for that individual. So to direct that focus to a place where I'm in the middle now, they're looking towards me, and let the eyes close. Then I get that another entrance. I turn around and talking to the audience, interacting with them. In a moment I'll count from 1 to 3, let those eyes open again. 1, 2, 3. So it's another way to fold that process in a way that is, quote, a little bit more theatrical for that environment, as that's helpful. Yet it also is directing that very specific focus, so when the eyes open up, you're not connecting with the poster and other things in the room. Just a little addition to that one.
Now, just a real quick synopsis of why 3 times and the fractionation itself. Dave Elman developed this when he was about 12, the fractionation part, because he realized that as he was reading Bernheim and these other classic books, that each time somebody went into hypnosis, they went deeper and faster. And so he's sitting there going, well, I don't understand, if you, every week you come back to the doctor and you'll go deeper and quicker, why not just go out to the waiting room and come back in? Go out to the waiting room and come back in. And then he slowly developed it where, why even go to the waiting room, you know, in his mind. You know, why not just bring you up and down, up and down? And there's lots of different methods you can use of fractionation within hypnosis, besides just opening and closing the eyes. But anything that's going to bring them up a little bit and take them down, and up and down, because each time they're going to go a little deeper. And that's the process of what you're doing at that point.
Great.
Okay?
The next part is going to be a little bit more brief, simply because we've already done it, but now we're just expanding it. Doing large muscle catalepsy, which that was the example you did, the arm becoming stiff and rigid.
Yes.
In the classic version, one-on-one with a client, in a moment I'll reach over, I'll pick up your hand, let it be loose, relax. As you let it fall, just let it plop down. So getting that complete relaxation, the opposite side of the catalepsy. In a group environment, depending on the size, you know, if we've got 5 people, walk around, pick them all up. That being said, I tend to still use the pick up the arm moment, even with a big group, because simply put, just by looking at that group, if this one's just kind of sitting like this, I'm not concerned, I'm not going to bother with that arm. But if I see this one's still sitting completely upright and rigid, that's going to be the one I'm going to test.
You're talking on a stage.
On a stage.
Not out in an audience.
Not out in an audience,
Right.
no. Most of what I'm talking about is a group of like 20, 30 or so.
Right, whereas, you know,
But
this
for a
could be
big group-
used for any size group.
Yeah, the example you just did was perfect for a bigger group where you can't necessarily get to everybody. You can look out there and see everyone's arm is stiff and rigid.
And then originally, Dave Elman had it originally on stage as the rigid arm, because it was more impressive on a stage, you know, and not being able to bend. And
when Dad was first teaching this, the question was raised about this looking like the opposite of this. And Dad always carried with him a medical dictionary. I've got that dictionary. Don't try carrying it, you'll break your arm. Anyway, if you look up the medical definition of catalepsy in the 1950s, I have no idea what's in the current dictionary, it was the extremes of muscle movement, either extremely rigid or extremely loose. So this is physiological medical backing of the fact that this thing and this thing are actually the same test. You're looking at compliance, you're looking at whether or not in their mind they're going to the extreme of whatever muscle you're testing. And by the way, why are you using large muscles the second time you do catalepsy? Because it's harder to get large muscles to catalepsy than small. So you've done the entering wedge. Now you're testing a group of large muscles. You're seeing whether they've got that relaxation and that, what's the word we're using, compliance throughout the body, rather than just on the eyes. So the large muscles is done second, and it can be done either way.
yes, Kim.
I noticed you didn't specify right or left.
I
Is that because you don't want to engage the
They could do
analytical
whichever
factors?
one.
It's whichever they favor.
And you've heard my story before of, I get a photo from a teacher from a school, and they go, oh, this is great, look at this moment, that was so cool when everyone couldn't bend their arm, and I have this photo of 20 kids on stage all out like this.
So after that, you have the fist, right?
So ever since then, the language I tend to use, because also I found in my language too, if I didn't get specific enough, because in the office, with a one-on-one environment doing the arm lock, do me a favor, actually, just relax your hand. Just go ahead and take this right hand, squeeze it in a nice tight fist. Good, you can help me out this time. We'll pick it up together, let it just kind of float in space even as I let go. And I've got the hand in position. Working one-on-one, I can put her exactly where I need her to be. But in a group environment, my phrasing challenge was, I'd say let your arm become strong, stretch it out in front of you. And I'd have this one over here, this one over here, this one over here, this one over here. Go ahead and squeeze your right hand down, and just let that arm extend straight out in front of you. Let it just float right there directly out in front of you in your own space. And now I've got everyone out there, and now I can begin the process of actually getting the effect. As I count forward, let the arm get stronger and stronger. Then once I see everyone's there, then we go for that testing moment to actually get it. But I've just found that phrasing of, And again, it just might be my one weird experience of getting
Yes.
the photo of all the students.
No, I agree.
So now it's the hand squeezing into a fist because this is okay.
And also, I just recently added the bringing it down slower and using it as a deepener, because often people would go and slap, or depending on where it landed, or just slapping it down heavy. If they relax it all of a sudden, because they're all the way up here, it could be very not conducive for trance.
Well,
you know,
on one of
shock
Dad's
them.
records, the doctor actually, one of the doctor's students actually says to him, why do stage hypnotists use the rigid arm? It's a test, isn't it? And my father says, you got that wrong. Any stage hypnotist worth his salt knows that you use that to be a deepener. And it was when I heard Dad say that, almost angrily at the doctor, that I realized, and it had been scattered through other portions of the recording, but it hadn't coalesced with me. Any good test is a combination of getting information to both you and the client and deepening. And in putting those two together, it's acting as a convincer. So if it doesn't have all three pieces, information, deepening, and convincing, you've constructed your test roll. And this is for every test. And in most cases, in my opinion, the convincer is the big thing, because that allows you to go to the next test. But all tests should have those three components. And this one does.
And so the next phase, I'll briefly detail what it would be the classic one for one-on-one environment. In a moment, we'll have you begin to count backwards from the number 100. Let every number you say double your mental relaxation. Around 98 or so, you can just relax the rest of them away. And they begin to count. 100. Chime in. Deeper, relaxed. 99. Getting ready to let them go. 98. Now just relax them away. Are they gone? The person nods yes. And if they continue counting, we can then add more steps. You're the one to make it happen. Want it to happen. Expect it to happen. Watch it happen. Let it fade away. If they keep counting down, they're at 91 or 90, then we can start to change our suggestions. In a moment, I'll pick up this hand and drop it. Take all those remaining bits and pieces. Let it just fall away now as they're gone. Just nod your head. And just, again, changing the phrasing to get the response that we need. So that's that classic example of doing it one-on-one.
And there's several different techniques you can use to troubleshoot that particular thing.
A lot of different variations as well. But in a group, we have to modify it. And I will say this, you shared a video with me many years ago, where here's the person on stage doing a hypnosis show, and he did lose the numbers down the line with every volunteer, about 12 of them. And it's the most boring 10 minutes you will ever watch on video.
I forgot we were teaching a class within the last few months, and when we said something about, you know, letting them lose the number, he goes, all this time I've been counting for them.
Yeah.
And so the hypnotist was counting the numbers. Well, how are they going to lose it?
Right.
And the same thing, I've been in group situations where they had everybody count out loud. You know, what you're doing is reminding each other.
Yeah.
So you might have lost them, and now somebody says a number again, and you're right back. You know, so it was interesting, and that's when I came up with in the mind's eye. You know, and that way you could still do that process, and not lose the process in a group situation.
Please note that was not a video of me doing that.
No.
So.
Now that's been a discussion on HypnoThoughts.
Yes.
I put something up on HypnoThoughts, and somebody jumped in with, I always count with them. And I politely said, well, that's not a good technique. And the guy comes back with, should I call all my clients back and tell them it didn't work?
Okay.
What hit me at this point, I was tempted to answer nastily, but I didn't. I kept my temper. Because remember, I have to answer to her. That's kind of tough. But what this points out, and this is true throughout my father's induction, but also throughout all hypnotic processes, you can blow a piece of a step or a couple of words. Your client hasn't been there, or in the case of a group induction, the audience hasn't been there, so they may not spot it. So you can recover from errors. But don't make so many of them that you can't recover. So the result is you make a mistake, don't panic, don't back up and try to correct it and thereby call their attention to it. Just keep moving on. because they won't spot it unless you make a big deal out of it.
Or unless they're a hypnotist that has done it 15 times.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
Well, to
But
quote-
the result is this guy sending in that letter, no, he did enough other things right, so he got his subjects in, he got his suggestions given. Yes, it worked, but on the other hand, is he doing it right? No, he isn't. Could he be getting a better hit record? Yes, he could. But why argue it?
To quote another hypnotist, another trainer, we can leave it, this isn't brain surgery, we can leave a few tools inside and they'll be okay.
I hadn't heard that one.
Okay.
But, no, but again, but simply put, just to spend a brief moment on it, it doesn't always have to be counting numbers backwards, days of the week backwards, spelling a certain word backwards. Backwards a little easier because there's a familiarity counting forwards. Larry shows the story of kids, 1, 2, 3, ready or not, here I come. And my perspective is I've got a 2.5-year-old at home, and as she started to learn how to count, there we are praising her and just building up her confidence with how wonderful she can now count up to 100. You know, she's getting praised. It's just more of a familiar pattern. 10 to 1, maybe a little too familiar. 1,000 to 1, maybe a little bit too confusing. Again, it's like that fractionation Y3. 100 to 1 just works better.
Yeah, and somebody, I've heard stories of hypnotists letting them count all the way to 0. No, not so much. Definitely low 90s, high 80s the most is what I'll go. What?
Who has time for that?
Exactly. Well, they've left the room and come back and they're still counting.
But also remember what I said about the shorter induction is its own convincer. If you let them count all the way to 0, have you got a short induction? No, you bored the heck out of them and you're not there.
When we get to this step, I usually have a little segue between the two. Great, now you have great physical relaxation. Now we're going to go for mental relaxation. Okay, so just letting them know, okay, this is what we're going for. You know, it's not losing the numbers, which a lot of people call that step.
Which that phrasing is a wonderful bit of dissociation as well. It's also a nice pat on the back. At this point, we've got all the physical relaxation we're going to need. Now you can help yourself begin to relax mentally.
Right.
Same phrasing. And the last phase, yes, Ken.
I was just wondering, what about counting back from 100 by 3s or some other number to confuse them more?
You could if the confusion was your goal. And I share this, and I'm sure a lot of people in the room have made use of this as a process many times. The confusion is perhaps a little extra step that's just not needed. There is a hypnotist I met one time that had a great bit about when I have the, quote, really analytical kind. You can become so caught up in something else. I just want you to think of the number 300 as you hear me talking today. Just begin to count backwards in your mind by 7s. And just as you... and his principle was just going to confuse the hell out of them. I tend to be a little bit more critical about confusion, to say, let's use it with intention rather than confuse the hell out of them and claim it as a technique.
Jason, wouldn't that cause them to actually be focused more on accounting?
Yes.
So their conscious mind has to be too engaged.
You know, you're going to be thinking, you know, okay, so...
But then you wait for that moment of confusion and just yell sleep and you're set.
But the other thing in what you just said that bothers me very much are the number of hypnotists who talk about how they have to change their pattern for the analytical types. I spent 4.5 years during which 90% of the people I hypnotized were MIT students. There is not a more analytical population on this planet. And I didn't change one word of my pattern, one piece of my induction the entire time. What is it? If you have it in your mind that an analytical type is going to be difficult, you have projected that on the person, and guess what? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Do not buy into that fable. Analytical types aren't any different from anything else. And when I've tried to say this to people, hypnotist conventions, they'll say, oh yes, accountants are, or oh yes, engineers are, or oh yes, lawyers are. And I'm thinking to myself, every time they pick a particular professional group, you had a bad experience with one of those and you have your own fear. And then there are the hypnotists who will start in making the same type of thing and picking an ethnic group or whatever. And again, what's going off in my mind is this person has fear, has bias. The problem is the hypnotists not the subjects. So don't buy into that thing. Don't be foolish.
And remembering too, the entire process is suggestion. So, Barbara, I know you're an accountant. You had to spend your entire day dealing with numbers. Wouldn't it be great if you could just relax them away for a while? I'll show you how easy it is. In a moment, you're going to begin to count backwards out loud. And you've just given her an emotional buy-in. And, you know, I had been trained from others from the perspective of, oh, the whole bit of you're going to lose a number, you're going to count from 1 to 10, the number 6 isn't there. I had been told by so many people that it's just don't use that person for that thing. And I'm doing a program for a school, and there's the school's accountant on stage. And she doesn't have the number 6. And the thought is this could have been very fearful for her, but how do we let this become the funniest thing ever? Well, I mean, how many fingers did you have this morning? I had 10. Count them again. She's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's like, this is going to throw off everybody's payroll, isn't it? How do you take that suggestion and make it congruent with that person? That's the filter we should be asking. You know, for those of you who might have saw the hypnotism success video, the first one we launched, there's a moment where I just point out that there's many people who would say, oh, you can't get permanent results with direct suggestion. And the answer is instead, well, what techniques should you be using better to get better results with that technique? You know, you can't buy a hammer at Home Depot, return it the next day and say it didn't work. The tool's only as good as you know how to make use of it. So the losing the numbers, the amnesia by suggestion, back up, find a better phrasing for that group, and then deliver it in that fashion.
Also in a group situation, when I have them continue the numbers, if I was going forward and continuing on to do something else, I would let them, the people, anybody that still had not raised a hand or were still counting in their mind, go ahead and continue counting and just keep listening to, you know, let your conscious mind keep counting and go ahead and listen to me as we continue on.
Although what's John Ware's line that I heard him say? It was, as you let the numbers go, you can notice when you let the numbers go or just allow them to go as you bring your attention back to my voice.
That's good.
Which I thought that was amazing when I heard him say that one. There's a bit of a double bind there of let the numbers fall away, or you'll notice them falling away as you bring your attention back to my voice. Yeah, which I loved that.
Right. Sorry guys, you touched on 2 very interesting points, because that was one of the things that was running in my mind was my wife says don't analyze it. That's her favorite word. Don't analyze it, just let it be. And so that's kind of interesting that you guys have brought that up in the sense of being, how do you get past someone's own preconceptions of them being analytical? In the sense of, is this going to work? Is this working? While they internal dialogue in their head.
Well, we have found that analytical people do really go into hypnosis very easily.
Great, no,
you know?
excellent.
And what's Dom's line?
Dom's line is perfect.
Suggestion.
Don Patterson, also known as Sean Michael Andrews, he sits down with a client and almost under his breath, just as he's going to start, it's like, I know you're going to go in fast because all really intelligent people do. And then he just keeps going. They're in a double bind. I'm either going to prove myself an idiot or I'm going to go into hypnosis. Which is less embarrassing. Bingo.
I just found it was very interesting because when I heard you talk about the eyes locked tight, that triggered something inside me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it was just a mental, an audible thing that just kind of, I felt like, oh, that would connect with me.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting that you've brought up those 2 topics, because once again, suggestion and language is, I think, what I'm seeing a lot of it is tailoring yourself to the person's sort of inputs.
Absolutely.
Although this is a brief personal rant, I'll keep short. You'll sometimes have the person who comes in and they want to prove to themselves or you why this just isn't going to work for them. The best example, a guy who came in about a week or 2 ago, and he's looking at the bookcase, he goes, I've read all those books, trying to learn everything about hypnosis before I found someone to work with me. So there's not a thing you can say today that I probably haven't heard.
That's great.
To which I decided to go a little Dr. Phil on him. Great, how's that working out for you? And he just goes, it's not working at all. It's like, okay, good. So follow my instructions. This is an Elman line. Follow my instructions, I know I can help you. If you're not willing to follow my instructions, I don't know a thing in the world that will help you. So what's your goal today? And just kind of refocusing on the reason why that person is there. But the same way that Cheryl just delivered a wonderful suggestion of, what was the phrase you just used?
I don't know.
And it's true. But it's the same way that a friend of mine was doing a stage hypnosis program for a group of psychologists. And he just got up there and the line was, well, of course, in most of your studies, you're aware of the work of Milton Erickson, so even as we're doing the program tonight, you basically may be surprised that even in an entertainment program, the certain techniques that we borrow from Erickson, even for the entertainment side of things. And half of the group is going, oh, yeah, I'm familiar with Erickson. The other half of the group is going, who the hell is that? I need to play along so everybody thinks that I know who this is too. And it's just his way of getting everyone to emotionally buy into that process just a little bit more. That kind of phrase of course, anyone of average intelligence, anyone who can follow these instructions. You know, any category is the best category.
Oh, right, I think I said that all analytical people go in really quickly and deeply.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So there's our, and phase 6, continued deepening, which we had the great chat about. That's the next phase of every hypnotic induction. If we want to talk about the brainwave conversation, maybe they're down here. But as energy flows, they may be up, they may be down. As we continue deepening, we're going to maintain where they ought to be. So basically, my anecdote is every induction, every process, every session, continue deepening throughout, which will lead to the next phase. But let's pause here for a moment. Any questions on that process as a whole so far? I love to break it down the easiest way possible. We've got our business card, we've got the big cheat sheet on the wall. Catalepsy of small muscle groups by suggestion. Everybody repeat after me. Go ahead and relax your eyes. Go ahead and relax your eyes. To the point they just work. To the point they just work. Give them a try, they just won't work.
I thought he was testing.
And we use the classic phrasing, test them, satisfy yourself, they just won't work. Okay, good, you've done the first phase. Quit testing, send that relaxation down across your body. All right, we're a third of the way through. Open your eyes, close your eyes. 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 We're halfway through.
Wait a minute, I'm going to object.
Yes.
That one I object to also.
We need the qualifications.
Yes.
You need to have said, and when you open your eyes and close them, you will go X times
10 too deep.
Which is
10 too
similar,
deep, yeah.
let's bring this up to at this point. Blaine had a great question about it. I was losing a bit of focus at that point. There's that intention as soon as the eyes open to want to regain composure. And because we're there immediately giving a suggestion, it's going to have a stronger reaction of being accepted. So in a moment, you'll open your eyes. When you open them, I'll ask you to close them. When they close, just double that relaxation. Let your eyes open, let those eyes close. No, good, now double that relaxation.
They know what they're going for when you do that.
Yeah, we're setting expectation, then following through with it.
Right.
So I give the massive shortened version here.
Yeah. That's your crib sheet.
Crib sheet. Large muscle, you have two options here. If it's a smaller group of about 10 people or so, you can go around and pick up the arms. Great little note on that in case you're doing that. Hey Sterling, throughout the process today, I may sometimes tap in the back of the hand. Is that okay? Okay, good. Why was that okay? Because I already got away with doing it.
Or when you sat down, you say,
Yes.
in the moment, I mean, anytime today I might be touching you on your wrist, your
the longer delivery in a
shoulder.
one-on-one session is sometimes you may tap on the hand, your shoulder. Sometimes I might even tap on the forehead. Is that okay? Oh yeah, I've already gotten away with doing it. So if we have a group of people, we may do that to a few people. Just to say, sometimes I may just tap you on the shoulder, the hand. All right? Okay, great. And we've got that buy-in. Basically, don't ever touch them unless you've told them you're about to touch them. I actually explain it to my clients in the session because there's a great power behind words. If I sat over there and said, I'm going to touch you and your eyes are closed, how do you feel now? So there's power behind words. Tap. My phrasing around that as we start this process with this narrow perspective that hypnosis is this weird thing I've never done before. By the time we're done together, you have this bigger perception of the entire universe, the entire world is hypnosis, accepting suggestions, taking them in, and the strongest ones you accept are often the ones you give yourself. So, tap. We're going to use better phrasing in here to help you work with yourself. The next phrase, that counting backwards, the losing the numbers format, followed by continue deepening. And that's the basic format there. Any questions so far on how to modify that for a group? But in its format, you can actually take this, and I'll throw out a quick note, then we'll go to your question. That format that Cheryl just did for a group is actually in many forms the same induction you can now record on an audio program. What's your best filter of what inductions will work creating a hypnosis CD? If it'll work for a group without that interaction, it'll work for an audio program as well. Many of my programs now have an Elman induction at the beginning of it, with a little bit more phrasing just to make sure that every step of the process works. But rather than the default of, well, it's an audio program, I've got to do progressive muscle relaxation, the techniques that will apply for a group will also apply for that audio program. Saw your hand up there, Michelle.
Well, about the continued deepening.
Yes.
Can you throw us some other suggestions for continued deepening?
Oh, that's the next phase.
Funny you should ask.
Before we go there, there's one thing where we all got so enthusiastic that we made a semantic error that I'd like to point out so it doesn't get embedded. Once you have told them that they're going to lose the numbers or the days of the week or whatever else, try to refer to that item by a pronoun. Because every time you say something like, have you lost the numbers, bingo, you brought them back.
Use them.
So use pronouns.
Are they gone?
Are they gone? Do not use the item you've told them to lose. Now, we got so enthusiastic discussing this that we and some of you in the room ended up referring to them using the word don't. Go by,
are they gone?
Are they gone? And by the way, that question, are they gone? The reason that question is so important is this. If when you ask, are they gone, you get a positive response, yeah, or, or something that tells you that in their mind they're gone, you've got somnambulism. If you get a refusal to answer, total dead nothing, they may be in false somnambulism, and what you may be encountering is aphasia, a reluctance to speak, rather than temporary amnesia, which is somnambulism. So always ask that question, and if you're in the aphasia situation, you've got to add extra deepeners and make more tests, because the reason you're aiming for somnambulism is that in somnambulism you can do certain things you can't do in other states. You get reliable regression, you get better pain control, you get more effective post-hypnotics for change work on weight, smoking, etc., etc. So you're aiming for that state, and if instead you get false somnambulism, the aphasia thing, your stuff is unreliable. And you'll wonder, what did I do wrong with client number 3? Haven't seen them again, and something went wrong.
You counted with them. Yes, Michelle.
Well, if you say, are they gone, and how do they know how they're supposed to answer you? You know what I'm saying? So
when you do this, and they're usually pretty relaxed, they might nod their head.
They will do something.
Or they'll move their finger.
Or they'll move a finger, or they might say, yeah.
See, my style's always been, as they're gone, just nod your head.
Okay.
Yeah,
I had you guys raising your hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's in a one-on-one or a small group, I can do that.
Right.
Notice the phrase, as they're gone, as opposed to if they're gone.
Ah,
Yeah.
good semantics.
So,
can one question on
Yes.
that? So if they just quit counting, that's not enough. You need to
We need
actually
confirmation.
ask
Yes,
the
yes.
confirmation for it. Okay.
Yeah, quitting counting is insufficient.
Okay.
I will
But
tell one
if
quick
they
story.
Quit counting, give them a little bit of time. They may be slowing down the counting, so don't be too quick.
A very quick story. We were doing some filming with Sean Michael Andrews and Larry and the 2 wives, and we were out there for the weekend, and the guys were busy talking and being filmed, and Stephanie was doing Sudoku puzzles, and I was working with Sylvan Learning Center at the time, and I was doing an analysis of all that testing in 17 schools and doing spreadsheets all weekend. And so now they call us in to be, be the subjects. And Stephanie always lost the numbers real easy, but she'd been doing Sudoku all weekend. And all of a sudden, those numbers were not leaving as easy. And as I was trying to lose my numbers, I kept seeing spreadsheets, and the numbers just kept going around. It was very difficult because that was so much of our focus that day. So,
Never have anyone fall asleep. Just fall asleep.
you mean snoring?
Just fall asleep.
It's happened.
Yeah, I would share the way that I talk about it. It's a term that I've stolen from the birthing community. They talk about active management of labor, where basically every 20 minutes something's happening. They're coming in to monitor, they're coming in to check something, so I've coined it as active management of hypnosis. So you'll basically see that in the next phase of where we're going to be going. There's something always happening. If the entire process is they're slumped in the chair just listening to us, yeah, they may begin to fade away. But the way that I'm about to demonstrate some of these deepening techniques in a group format is really the same way that I do a lot of my sessions here, because I'm always getting checks and balances. There's always calibration to the process. So I tend to say that the answer to that question depends on the style of work. The style of work that I tend to do and I teach, it's just not much of an issue because there's always something happening. If you do have the concern that maybe they're asleep, give them a suggestion, give them an instruction, and if they do it, you know, this time of year, people will snore, but it doesn't mean they're asleep. Good, go ahead, take a nice deep breath, then as you exhale, they take the deep breath, okay, we're still together.
Or there's a deepener, which isn't on this particular one, called the Void Deepener, V-O-G-T. And it's in itself a fractionation, 3 times. And you're bringing them up a bit, and counting, and then taking them down. So using that will also help.
Right.
But
your fractionation too, even throughout the process.
Right.
Go ahead and just let those eyes open, let them close. My theory though is if they doze off, it's soon enough that they're not going to be in necessarily a deep, deep state. So rather than go, hey, wake up, you did that all wrong, I will sometimes be a little bit more authoritative in that moment, because in my assumption they're not at a deep enough level of sleep yet that it's going to be a challenge. So watch the timing. And just let those eyes open, and just let them close. So this is the, hey, wake up, and here comes the hypnotic suggestion. We're right back into our process where we left off. Just to add a little bit of an extra element, just to jar the attention, but I'm right there with suggestions, as opposed to, oh, we have to start all over again, you fell asleep. Which I've seen people do that. Let's take one more question, then we'll jump in next.
Sorry, 2 very brief novice questions.
Okay, only one.
All right.
No.
1 1/4. Right, so 6 processes here. How long did it sort of take to sort of culminate this? And my second quarter of that question is it something that hypnotherapists keep building on? Or do you find your own, obviously you find your own styles and tools, but does the greater community go, hey, this is a really solid tool, let's try to implement it in sort of the broader structure?
Okay. When Dad was first teaching this, he called it the 3-minute routine because he found that if it was done in 3 minutes or under, first of all, it was a good convincer. Second of all, it left the doctor adequate time. I'm going over some of his phonograph records that I hadn't heard in years, and I come across the day he announced, starting with this class, there's a new standard. To graduate, you got to do it in under 1 minute. And my heart stopped. I've been doing it for 3 minutes for like 30 years, 40 years. Ah! So I tried it. I had great difficulty getting it down to 1 minute. So then I put on another one of his recordings, and it was of a student who'd been through 1.5 lessons with Dad and did it 1 minute perfectly. So I analyzed. To go from 3 minutes to 1 minute, you proceed to remove every extraneous word. You simply tighten up your pattern. Now, what I teach my students, I tell them, if you're anything under 4 minutes, it's going to be a good convincer. 1 minute on some people, Cheryl's a good example, is too jarring. So, I don't know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, somewhere in the middle there. Be concerned with your quality and be concerned with the fact you want it fast enough to act as a convincer, but give up on the stopwatch.
Remember Dave Elman's audience. You've got 8 minutes in the room, make it count.
Yeah.
Got at least an hour in the session.
The one I did was probably about 3.5, 4 minutes.
Yeah.
I'd share the question about adding stuff to it. The more I tried to add to it, the less it worked.
Yep.
The more I just trusted the pattern. And
But as a hypnotist, do we take other classes?
Oh, yeah.
We take NLP, we take other classes. You always have a toolbox with a lot of tools in. So if something's not working, you might pick up a whole different thing, or you never know when an idea from something else might work for that person.
I see that a lot just when you're walking around, and I just see the way you guys move with your bodies, and I see that it's, you know, it's not just about the voice. It's about, like
It's
you
the
said,
whole-
taking the whole physiology, taking control of the situation.
This is the first
The
time I
other-
did the group,
the
Elman, with sitting.
Yeah.
I'm used to walking around.
Right.
And I found it like I just didn't know what to do while I was sitting here. I'm a pacer. It's like, okay.
The other thing that should be stressed is this induction was designed primarily for your first induction of a new patient and for a repeat induction later on if for some reason you were concerned that the patient wasn't going to go in easily. For example, if you have a very compliant patient at the end of a treatment where you've done this as the induction, you might add something like, and at your next visit to the office, you will find that when I snap my fingers, you'll come just as deep as you are now. And leave that implanted. I just saved myself an induction. But you get into a patient where that doesn't take, you go back and you use this. So many people call this the Dave Elman induction, including us, and many people think that's what he taught. No, that's one of approximately 20 to 30 inductions he taught. It's just the most generalized one. If you understand it, all of the others become simple because you've got an idea as to how does hypnosis work, and you can take any other item and make it work. In fact, my father's famous quote on this is, there is no way you cannot hypnotize a person.
That's pretty
Now,
powerful statement.
get rid of the double negatives. You have to parse the sentence. What he's basically saying is, you can use anything, it's going to work.
Okay, let's get to deepeners.
So I'll give you an option on this part, and we'll go with whatever the most popular option is. One, we can just kind of break it down, more of a conversational way about how to fold these into a group, or we can pull up a group of volunteers and put it all together. Group of volunteers. Awesome. So we will do it this way. Let's move Rosie so she doesn't get stepped on.
Moving her at this point
Oh
is
yeah,
dangerous.
she's out. Let's just
She's
slide
gone.
her.
Here,
Tell you what, we'll have room for like 5 people up here. If you want to come up and take a seat, if you don't see a chair up here, bring one with you.
Ooh, I'm right in front of the camera, not a good idea.
Right. Larry, are you a volunteer as well?
Oh, he's good. You
Yeah.
stay there,
A
Lev.
couple of volunteers up here. Let's get 2 more
I
chairs
wasn't
up here
planning
as
on being, I
well.
just didn't get up in time.
Yeah,
Chairs, yeah.
have a seat on down, yeah. There you go, great, come on up. Great, have a seat. If we need an extra chair, Sterling, can we grab this one?
Oh, I thought you were going, Ma.
Yes,
Go,
he is
go,
going.
go,
Go,
go.
Just get a little closer.
Get somebody else to use it, I was about to try.
Oh, yeah, go for it real quick.
So Larry, you gonna stay or come?
No, I'm not.
We're gonna, it's gonna be relatively quick too, I just wanna
Oh,
make
okay,
sure.
don't worry about it.
Okay.
There we go. And I will ask 2 bits of favors, because my test on this, you have a seat on down.
Go
What
get
do I
some
have?
of the drink.
You get 2 more, Bobby? Oh, yeah, come on up. Great, one more, we'll fill all the chairs. So we can see some of the variation of this as well.
Yeah, you got the comfortable.
There you go. Are they coming up here?
Yeah.
Awesome. Let me do myself a favor just to kind of break down what I'm doing. My goal in doing these deepeners is actually going to be to do them in the actual order on your paper. So I've given myself 2 cheat sheets. Eric, can you scoot in a little bit closer as well? Let's do this too. Jim, Elsa, if you can scoot back a little bit. The back of the room, watch out for that coffee. And then everybody up here, if you can scoot your chair forward about 6 to 8 inches or so. Just that way I don't pass behind. There you go. Perfect. And give me a little bit more room so I can walk through. Excellent. Tight room, but we can make it work. So as we start to demonstrate some of these deepeners, my goal is to try to do my best to go in order, although some of them can be more than one thing. So tell you what, everybody's sitting in a nice comfortable position, feet on the floor if they reach. Mine don't, you all are taller than I am. Hands in your lap so they aren't touching, that's one hand on each thigh. You're going to be relaxing throughout this process, so that'll just keep you nice and balanced in that chair. Keep your eyes open for now, Blake, don't get ahead of me. Just keep your eyes up here on me for just a moment, just look over here at me, great. You're going to do wonderful. With me, just go ahead and take a nice deep breath in. Just let yourself fill those lungs up with air, hold it. And as you exhale, good, just relax it on down. Perfect. Another nice deep breath in, even deeper. Perfect, hold it. Let it on out. And now the deepest breath of all. Fill those lungs up. Really breathe it on in. Breathe it on in, hold it. And this time as you exhale, now just let those eyes begin to close. Just allow those eyes to close, just relax on down. And you realize you can relax those eyes to a place where it would seem as if they just cannot relax any further. Go ahead and relax those eyes to that wonderful place where it seems they just won't work. And when you've done that, test them. Satisfy yourself. They're so relaxed they just won't work. Try they just relax even further. And you can move around those eyebrows too so I can see you're trying. Try they just relax even further down. Good. Quit testing. Relax. Take that feeling. Send that all the way down across your body like a nice wave of relaxation. Good. You're doing great. Every breath you exhale, just guiding you deeper down. In a moment, I'll have you open your eyes. I'll be standing in the center of the room. Just look towards me. Look towards my left hand. When I lower my hand, just let those eyes close back down. When those eyes close this first time, not yet, you're doing great. When those eyes close this first time, just go ahead and notice how you can relax maybe as much as 10 times deeper. Just let those eyes open, looking over here. Let those eyes open, looking at the palm of my hand. Good, just let those eyes close. And just allow yourself to relax, maybe as much as 10 times deeper. Feel more relaxed, more calm. Every breath you exhale guiding you deeper down. We'll do that again the next time. When those eyes close, just notice how you can double the awareness of your comfort in that chair. Just let those eyes open. Looking up here. Fantastic. Just let those eyes close and just double that awareness so you can feel twice as relaxed, twice as comfortable, twice as confident in your abilities from this point forward. We'll do that one last time. The next time when those eyes close, notice how you can just let go. Just let those eyes open. And just let them close right back on down and just go much deeper. Every breath you exhale, every word I say, guiding you deeper down. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to pick up some arms, maybe your left, maybe your right. But when I pick up that arm, just let it be loose, limp, and relaxed. Let me take the full weight of that arm. Just let it dangle there. If I pick it up, that's right, you're doing fantastic. Just let that arm just be like a soaking wet dish rag. As I pick it up and drop it, just let that take you deeper down. That's right, good. As I pick up the hand and drop it, just deeper down. At this point in time, we've got all the physical relaxation we're going to need. So you can now help yourselves to begin to relax mentally. So in a moment, I'm going to have you begin to count backwards in your minds, slowly, from the number 100. Imagine how you could take a rock, throw it into a body of water. There'd be a splash, a few ripples, and then there'd be nothing there. You'll find after a few of those numbers, you can just let the rest of them go. Somewhere around 98, 97, maybe sooner, as if there's just nothing left to count. Want that to happen? Expect it to happen, and as they're gone, notice how good you feel. As you can begin slowly backwards, just in your own minds. Now. That's right. Just getting ready to let them go. Good, and as they're gone, just nod your head. That's right. And just take all those remaining bits and pieces as I pick up this hand and drop it. Just let all the rest of them fall away and just go much deeper. Good. So as I count backwards from the number 5 down to the number 1, just notice how every breath you exhale just helps to guide you deeper down. 5, focusing on yourself. Every breath, every word, every thought. All the sounds in this room just help to guide you even deeper. Sounds around you matter less and less. The sound of my voice and every breath you exhale just helps to guide you deeper and deeper down. I'm following my list now. As I walk around, as I pick up that hand and drop it, just let it be loose, limp, and relaxed. If there's ever a time I pick up that hand and drop it, just let that take you much deeper down. That's right, good, you're doing fantastic. Noticing how every natural breath just continues to guide you even deeper down. That's right. All sounds around you mattering less and less. This is a time for you. That's right. Your body remaining nice and safe in that chair. That chair you're seated in is always there to support you completely. In fact, in a moment, you'll hear me become quiet. In that moment of silence, just allow yourself to go deeper and deeper down now. Perfect. Amazing how your mind has that ability just to sort things out and put it all together. In fact, even now, just notice with every breath you exhale, you can just begin to allow yourself to go deeper and deeper. And for extra credit, let's combine the two. In a moment, I'm going to become quiet. And in this moment of silence, notice how every breath you exhale just continues to guide you deeper down. Excellent. We'll start to throw in some other variations as well. The person I'm tapping on the shoulder right now, just as I rock you back and forth, this just helps you to guide yourself even deeper. Just letting every breath you exhale, just letting every word I say, just continue to guide you deeper and deeper down. Oh, hello, Rosie. Just letting every breath, every word, every thought. That's right. Good person I'm tapping on the shoulder now. You can allow the rest of your body to become even deeper relaxed. No matter how deep you go in this process, this right hand will always be responsive to my suggestions. In fact, go ahead and take this hand. Just begin to press down on mine like you're trying to push a door open. As I count forward from the number 1 onward, begin to press down stronger and stronger. I'm standing up. I've got leverage. 1, pressing that hand on down. even stronger. Now you got to get stronger than I am. 2, pressing down even stronger. That's right, good. 3, as I count to 5, pressing down even stronger. Push it like it's a door that's locked, trying to shove it open. 4, pressing, sleep, good. Just let the mind and the body just relax even deeper down. Just letting every breath, every word, every thought just guide you. That's right. Deeper and deeper down. That's right. Good. In a moment, I'm going to count from the number 1 to 3. At the count of 3, your eyes open up. Just notice how good you feel. 1, energy rising. 2, feeling better. 3, sitting up, eyes open, looking up here. 3, sitting up, eyes open, letting those eyes connect over here. Good. And just let those eyes close right back down. Just notice how easily you can bring yourself right back to that place of peace, that place of comfort, guiding yourself deeper down. As if you can imagine any remaining thoughts and concerns kind of like a cloud just beginning to float away. You can imagine how on a bright summer day the cloud just forms up in the sky and it begins to dissipate as it gets warmer, just breaking away into nothing. As you allow that cloud just to be gone, notice how that takes you even deeper. That's right, good. As perhaps in this process, as you feel the muscles in your body to begin to relax, you can notice how the body begins to respond. Maybe you feel warmer, maybe you feel cooler. The interesting thing is as the body relaxes in this way, you can notice the mouth relaxing, feeling that urge to salivate, to swallow. If you feel that need to swallow, just go ahead. That just takes you even deeper, helps you to relax even further down. That's right, good. In fact, go ahead, take your right hand, squeeze it into a nice tight fist. Squeeze that right hand into a nice, tight fist. Good. Extend that right hand straight out in front of you. Let that arm float out in front of you. As I count forward with the number 1, begin to notice, begin to imagine how that right arm just gets stronger and stronger. 1, feel that shoulder sticking in place. The arm getting stronger, stiff and rigid like a steel bar. 2, the elbow as well, straightening out, elongating, stiff and rigid. 3, the wrist as well, becoming so strong that even if I press down, it just springs right back into position. There you are, doing great. 4, the hand squeezing tightly down, sending that energy all the way up. As 5, it becomes so strong, stiff and rigid that even if you try to bend it, the more impossible it becomes. Try to bend it, it gets even stronger. Try to bend that thing, it just gets even stronger. Try, it gets even stronger. Good. In a moment, I'm going to tap you on the back of the hand. When I tap that hand, just let it easily relax right back down your lap. There, just let that arm relax. Let that arm easily relax on down. That's right. Whatever pace is best for you. That's fantastic. Even deeper down. That's right. Good. And in fact, in a moment, you can begin to feel, I don't know if it starts in your stomach or in your face, this kind of a funny feeling starting to rise up, a bit of laughter, like a giggle starting down your tummy. Once it starts to spread, it just starts to get stronger and stronger, that urge to smile, to laugh, that giggling inside. The interesting thing is that person next to you laughing perhaps just begins to make you smile just a little bit more. Once it starts to build, just gets stronger and stronger, just building on up, as if seeing the funniest thing you've ever seen your entire life, just building up more. There it is. Once it starts, it just starts to get stronger and stronger. The best part is if I tap you on the shoulder, that's when it gets even funnier. The laughter starting, the smile starting to grow and build, getting even stronger. As you can just let that begin to fade away, let that just take you even deeper down, noticing just how good you feel. The deeper you go, the better you feel. And the better you feel, the deeper you go, as you can become aware of the feeling of your shoes on your feet, your hands in your lap, noticing how your body's safe and secure. Noticing how you can take this moment and perhaps, as a good friend says, you should never waste a good trance. Becoming aware of something it is in your life that you'd like to achieve. And realizing that same part of your mind earlier that could wrap itself around the suggestion that the eyes wouldn't work, the same part of your mind that would let that arm become stiff and rigid as if it wouldn't even bend, is the same part of your mind that has everything to do with your ability now to create the outcomes you want. Take this moment now. Become aware of those things you'll do today, tomorrow, throughout the weekend, whatever it's going to take to begin that journey ahead forward now. That's right. And in a moment, I'll count from 1 to 5. As I count from 1 to 5, letting that energy rise on up. At the count of 5, specifically at 5, your eyes will easily open up, feeling refreshed, alert. Oh man, just notice how good you feel. 1, energy rising. More aware of the temperature of the air in this room. 2, feeling of your body in that chair, that breathing already returning to a nice, normal, natural pace. Yeah, 3, that urge to move, to stretch, those fingers and toes wanting to move around. There they go. As 4, beneath your eyelids, eyes clearing as if they've been bathed in that cool winter air. Feeling good, feeling refreshed. 5, let those eyes open up. Notice how good you feel. This round of applause is for you. You all did great. Thank you all so much for coming. So, we'll ask them, first of all, what were your experiences throughout that, getting that individualized attention throughout that? Even as a group member, you were hearing that around you, but specific moments where, like for example, your first name was?
Tahir.
Tahir. I didn't bother picking up his hand in that moment. I just could see from the body posture, oh, we're fine. So I spent my time doing the arm drop with the others. What were your experiences as a group hearing instructions for other people, first of all?
anticipatory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You wanted me to come to you, right? Yeah, yeah. Any questions that you all have for them?
Well, it reinforces when somebody laughs, reinforces my.
Yes, which fractionation arising and falling energy. So rather than doing eyes open, eyes closed, I've already done that. We started to build an emotion and then bring it right back down. The same way that in age regression, there's a feeling inside, there's every reason to do with why you're here, let the feeling grow stronger and stronger. We can branch off of positive sensations as well to begin to create hypnotic moments. But I did my best. I think I did the entire list in order, going through with a little bit of combinations there. But again, here's a group process that from start to finish, that was about 8 or 9 minutes. And I've just gone through an entire deepening process with those people. Would I do every single one of them every single time? Probably not. But again, there's how we take that and we do that continued deepening. You could do that entire list as we just did. It was still under about 8 minutes. And then from there, we are confirmed exactly where they are. We've done some large muscle testing. We've done some hypnotic phenomenon throughout the process. Do you agree now that your suggestions are going to be even more powerful as opposed to, well, I felt relaxed, I guess I was there.
Yeah.
When this one felt the eyes squeezing down, this one felt the kinesthetic feeling of that rocking. That's not on that list, but it should be. Just that kinesthetic movement of thing. Doing a reinduction, the pyramiding, which is basically I did an instant induction over here. Any questions on any of that?
Why didn't you have to pick out the ones that weren't as susceptible?
What's that?
You, like all 5 of them, you did it with all 5.
Yeah.
The only other time I've ever seen this was with the, at the Ren Fair, the guy did it.
Yeah.
And like you said it earlier, earlier that you get 20 people up there and you take out the ones that...
Right. In this environment, I knew I wasn't going to have much of a challenge. Because we have a group of people who were gathered here to learn more about hypnosis, who want to experience it. So up here, I did not even expect or even have it in my mind to deliver my stuff about. Some people I'll send back to the group. If that happens, it doesn't mean you can't be hypnotized. It just means another show, another night. I'd love to see you up here. But in this environment, I had an easier audience to work with. But in that environment, again, it's going to be calibration to those people up there. Simply put, no, I won't use the line. A friend of mine has a very crass way of phrasing it. But if I have people up there that don't want to follow my instructions and want to do their own thing, if it's him, he's going to be pulling him out when he's wonderful. So it's just in my best interest to keep up the only volunteers that I want. Because if we're here and Tahir is wonderfully hypnotized and Blaine's dicking around, Tahir's going to notice that, and it's going to pull him out. So it's just easier for me to go, hey Blaine, thank you so much. I'm going to enjoy the audience show out there. So that's the reason behind that.
And don't you always see people that are sort of related or close away from each other?
Yeah, but for a group, for entertainment, it'll become, if you're sitting back next to someone you know, sit somewhere else, and I'll start to notice as they're walking up there, here's the 2 that are chatting really strongly. Great, Tahir, do me a favor, switch seats with that gentleman right over here. I'll just mix them up a little bit. And just a little simple thing as well, I will put my 2 biggest people on the outside ends. Real quick though, and I'm going to point my finger at my friend James for this, because James one time sends me a video of people falling out of their chairs during the show. Now, some choose to do it, and let's take a step back though and just, I'll put this, there is a way to do the type of program where they're falling to the floor, but do it very safely. There's ways to do that where there's no risk. It's just like an instant induction. If every step of the process is measured and calculated, there's no risk there. And it's up to the person's opinion which type of program they do. But James's story was they're falling out of their chairs because he's doing 1, 2, 3, sleep now.
Oh yeah, very dynamic.
Very dynamic, yeah. So it then becomes, how do we keep them in their chairs? And I delivered this line actually to Eric, I believe. Throughout the program up here today, your body will safely remain in that chair. That chair is always there to support you completely. How do we get the result we want? We apply suggestion.
But it also made it feel safe.
That was comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. As opposed to if I didn't say that, and again, my reasoning behind every step of that process, hands in your lap so they aren't touching. In a moment, you'll be closing your eyes and relaxing. That'll keep you nice and balanced. So now there's a motivated reason behind things.
And I haven't had that problem since.
I haven't had it since. I want to show one quick thing. This is another deepening process. And we can do it out of hypnosis for now. Go ahead and close your eyes down. Oh, in a moment I'm going to count from 1 to 3. At the count of 3, specifically at 3, let your eyes open, look towards me. I'll be holding my left hand outwards. I'm going to then say the word sleep now. As soon as I say that and drop my hand, let your eyes immediately close back down, going much deeper. 1, 2, 3, eyes open, looking up here, and sleep now. Good, deeper, relax, that's right, good. Each and every time we do this, you get better, stronger, faster at the skill. 1, 2, 3, looking up here, that's right, sleep now, good, deeper, down, letting every breath guide you deeper. 1, 2, 3, that's right, sleep now, good, deeper and deeper down. 1, 2, 3, let those eyes open, that's right, deeper down, sleep now, good. And on your own pace, if you've gone in, allow yourself to emerge and bring your attention back to this room. It's a disguise test for somnambulism. We're creating that moment of contention, that moment of focus. The testing moment is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And in most cases in that environment, the ones who at 2 open the eyes, hey, thank you so much, I'm going to enjoy it there. Because they're not following my specific instructions at that point. Thank you all so much for being here. I do want to encourage, real quick, on the backs of your, look, Sterling.
I was under, so I don't know why it happened. I heard you doing the hand.
Yeah.
Was there a reason that you did that for that person, or was it just following the list?
Just in that order, following the list, but also from my posture, it was the easiest to do it to him.
Okay. You were just doing the pyramid.
Actually, I have a question about that.
Yeah.
I thought that I was probably too straight or too... Yeah, but that's a costume, I'm not dancer, so...
Yeah. And it's the same conversation
And to
about
put my hand in yours, I mean, that seemed very normal for him.
But it's the same thing about the person who walks in your office and crosses their arms. Don't assume they're angry at you. They might be cold. Because yes, it is 20 degrees outside, but the air conditioning on because there's 35 of us.
Or shy, or
yeah.
abused, and just like a way of covering up.
But maybe not.
Right.
Yeah. So simply because I was just following the order, Sterling. That's
okay,
why
so you were just
I
demonstrating.
just to show pyramiding using another induction on top of another process. Yes.
To add on to that, because that's what I was, because you were talking quite fast, and I was trying to listen.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed was, well, the biggest thing that stuck out was my arm. I couldn't straighten it, and that was a big thing for me. But I dropped it shortly after, and then I was like, oh, that was wrong. So in that time, I was still thinking, but I couldn't. So how do you?
But in that moment of thinking, I was already transitioning to the next phase of instruction for you.
All right. So that's
it's
just
a lot of the strength of the rhythm of it too. I'll make it brief on the backs of your sheets as a listing of upcoming events here. Tomorrow, best practices of Dave Elman in this room. We still have a few spots open if anyone would like to join us.